Now, Britain's Defence Secretary John Healey is calling for a 50-day drive to arm Ukraine as much as possible as he chairs a virtual meeting of Kyiv's allies, the Ukraine Defence Contact Group, today. Mr. Healey hopes the increased military support for Ukraine will force Russia back to the negotiating table. It follows a fresh wave of Russian drone and missile strikes overnight, which killed at least one person and wounded several others. Earlier this month, President Trump announced he would sell US weapons to NATO countries to be given to Ukraine.
On defence, on air defence, Boris and I have agreed to partner in providing critical air defence missiles to Ukraine. And finally, on the NATO Comprehensive Assistance Package, the UK will donate a further £40 million.
Today, I want to use this opportunity to appeal to you, our partners and allies, for further support. My first request related to the urgent procurement of the US weapons for Ukraine. Air defense, especially Patriot and PAC-3 missiles, along with ammunition, are crucially important to us. This night, another one, massive combined attack, 24 missiles, 426 drones, battle drones, attacked Ukraine civilian objects. Again, we have casualties and victims among civilian population. So Russian terror is continuing, so we need to strengthen our air defense. I request the US to make these weapons available for purchase and our European partners to extend all the needed financing for their procurement.
Germany will provide additional air defense systems and much needed ammunition. On top of that, I agreed with Pete Hegseth during my trip to Washington, D.C. last week that Germany will contribute to providing the 5 urgently needed Patriot systems as quickly as possible. This sends a clear message to Putin. Dragging out the war will come at an ever higher cost to him.
And snippets from that meeting there. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now on the line from London by the international affairs analyst, Dr. Marek Laskiewicz. Good to see you, Dr. Laskiewicz. Just tell us more about that meeting of Ukraine's allies, what's being discussed there and how significant it is likely to be, with the British Defence Secretary calling for a 50-day drive to arm Ukraine as much as possible.
Well, it has to be said, in all honesty, that it does come over as a great deal of hot air. There is no clear resolve by all the people at that conference to do anything more than talk. So promises are made, and that seems to be the end of it. President Donald Trump made an offer. The offer is hard to realize because he's both asked Europe to raise its defense spending and now wants them to buy arms from USA and give them for free to Ukraine. The central problem here is, does Europe has the money? And as it stands, nothing has happened on this point. Nothing. Okay, so that's that one dead. And now we have the British coming in saying they want this 50-day drive. There's no evidence that the rest of Europe's going to do anything more than, at best, make polite acceptance noises. As for Britain itself, it said with enormous pleasure about the £40 million, but this is minimal. It's just a drop in the ocean. The key question is, and these are the key, will actually Europe start supplying arms on the scale that America did? And as things stand, the answer appears to be no. And number 2, will America pull out altogether? This is the key problem, because Ukraine makes use of its satellite systems, makes use of a great deal of things for America. Unless Europe's willing to stump up the money, and that is by no means evident it has the money, let alone the will to do so, it would appear that from this point of view, Ukraine is likely to start running out of its arms in the near future. Therefore, all that happens is you get this, if you like, vague threat from the British Neo-Germans that Putin must be brought to the negotiating table, or that the price will be ever higher, when actually, in terms of strict what they are doing, concrete terms, there's nothing. So I'm afraid this conference, as it stands, is simply yet another exercise in hot air.
So really, I mean, I guess it'll be interesting to see the broad willingness, as you suggested, of European allies in terms of what they're actually willing to stomp up over the next 50 days. The other thing, of course, is whether Mr. Trump will stick to the deadline he gave the Russians in the first place.
As far as I can tell, President Donald Trump seems to more or less have washed his hands of the affair. He's made his offer, and that's it. His offer is on the table. You can buy his goods if you like. And he's virtually not interested anymore in what's happening there, as far as one can tell. Okay, he's not now pro-Russian as he was. On the other hand, he's not going to do anything for Ukraine. So from that point of view, to all intents and purposes, he's annulled America. Not entirely, I repeat, they're still providing satellite systems and so on. But that too could be withdrawn tomorrow. And as far as one can tell, President Donald Trump wants to withdraw everything from there, which isn't paid for. Number two, there is no 50 days, there's just a suggestion. And it's most unlikely, judging by how it was received, there'll be anything more than yet another conference. Please remember, the EU was famous, or notorious rather, for its endless directives and its talking shops and its discussions and its conferences, which never actually got anywhere, which is a reason, not the reason, but certainly it's a reason why Great Britain left the EU.
Well, you certainly sound like you're inspired by the European Union there, don't you? But I mean, of course, despite that 50-day deadline, assuming there is in fact a deadline, no sign as of yet that Russia is contemplating a ceasefire, with Ukraine facing yet another bleak night of heavy bombardment. I mean, that seems to now be part and parcel of daily life in Kyiv in particular.
Yes, it does. However, one has to state that this business of constantly bombing the civilians in Ukraine, especially Kiev, it's never actually worked, strangely enough. The British tried it in World War II. They pounded Berlin and pounded it. There was even a joke in Germany at one point, because nothing was left standing, that the British now have to bring the house with them to give something to bomb at. And the point is that German morale didn't break. Now, Ukraine is in a different situation. Ukrainians have had, to a degree, had enough. But it's very hard to see that being translated into a political decision to negotiate on Russian terms. So these Russian poundings, whilst they cost lives, they cost buildings, they cost assets for Ukraine, they actually don't get very far. The key point is Russia advancing on the battlefield? And there the reports are slowly but surely it's grinding on. And so as far as we can see, the following can be summed up. Russia has no intent whatsoever of any ceasefire, and is intent on taking more Ukrainian territory. However, this is difficult for the time being because Ukraine has enough arms. However, it is going to face a shortage soon when it runs out of its current stockpiles, and there's no evidence that Europe can make up this shortfall.
I mean, Dr. Laskiewicz, you have briefed us on this Ukraine war for, many, many months. You've assessed it and done it rather well. I mean, is it now looking like the solution to this war will be a military one and not a diplomatic solution?
As it stands, yes. There is no evidence that the Ukrainian dissatisfaction with the war, the populace having enough, is going to translate into anything, any pressure on the presidency. The only other pressure comes from the military field. Ukraine is going backwards, but holding its own at the same time. It's a fighting retreat, a very slow retreat. And so therefore, unless something happens on the military field, and that's the only place it's going to happen, there's going to be no diplomatic pressure. President Donald Trump has essentially backed out. The rest of Europe, Russia takes no notice of. And so therefore, military is the key point. I've yet to see what other points Russia has up her sleeve, because please note, they're forever talking about making more deals with North Korea. There may be more possibilities as well for them. And so what we're suggesting here is that if Russia were able to ramp up in some way, a military breakthrough might actually stop this war, or at very least have it concluded on Russian terms. Outside of that, it's going to carry on for some time to come.
So, I mean, just to be as sort of down the middle as possible so we don't lose entirely all hope, the end game, let me put it this way, remains uncertain. One scenario is possibly a negotiated settlement. The other is a prolonged conflict, which could, I think you might have pointed this out previously, eventually suck in other countries.
Yeah, the key point is, as long as it's a Ukraine-Russian war, however unpleasant it is for Ukraine, that war is going nowhere until Russia decides to step up elsewhere. As things stand right now, this war is, if you like, contained. And now, does Russia propose to do anything more? Well, there's constant saying on this point. The key elements, if you're going to say what might actually change the war, actually don't lie here at all. One of them is America is trying to develop the technology to counter Russia's hypersonic missiles. That would be a game changer. Number two, has it got the resources to open up the front elsewhere? As things stand, in making no attempt to do so, it has shifted troops up to Finland, has made some vague noises, but there's no evidence it's going to actually escalate. So right now, the war is, if like, contained and to that extent safe for the world. This is not World War III yet. But I repeat, it depends what Russia's up her sleeve, and it depends on American technological prowess, whether they can catch up the Russians or at least neutralize the Russians in the hypersonic field. This is probably one of the key things which is dominating President Putin's mind. His ability to deliver nukes without them being stopped is the key point. If America were able to counter that, and they are working on it, then Russia would in fact be stopped. The implication there is that Russia sooner or later will have to make a move now, because it might in the future, because of this American technological advancement, not have any options left. That's the one that worries me. That's what I'm looking at. That's what might drive President Putin to escalate the war to other areas. Outside of that, this war is contained as things stand.
On that note, I want to thank you, as always. Dr. Marek Laskiewicz is the International Affairs Analyst. He was talking to me on the line from London.